Cool. Cool. Nice. Okay. I think we're live. Sick. So make sure this is all working right. Yeah, I imagine so. Cool, cool. Let me adjust some stuff. Nice. I think there's like a weird delay, but I'll trust the process a bit. Okay, nice. Thanks, Teo. Cool, cool. Okay. Hello, everyone. I'm back. Hey, Bubbly, how's it going? Hey, Teo. It's nice to see you both. Let's go to the game. Okay. Make sure this is all right. Hello, Goblin King. How's it going? Ooh. So, yeah, I just kind of got off my break. I don't know if everyone would know, but I took the last 3 weeks off. It was very nice. It was very chill. And so I've been kind of hanging out. I haven't been on YouTube this entire time, so I have not seen anything that has gone on. I've seen some stuff generally online. Like, I haven't been offline, but I've been trying to keep in contact with some people. And yeah, other than that, not too much. Just been hanging out. So I'm looking forward to being back and being able to make more stuff. I've been thinking about some more videos I want to make. So there might be a new series coming soon. I'm kind of working it out now, writing up a script. Yeah, my hope is just to kind of, get back into the realm of making things and keeping things fresh. So I'm looking forward to it. Make sure everything is working right. Nice, nice. Okay, cool. For now though, just playing some Borderlands and hanging out. And yeah. That's my plan right now. I think I might keep details scant. Scant is the right word, right? That sounds cool. Beyond that, just because I don't want to say I'm going to do something and then immediately take it back. But my idea is something along the lines of talking about video games and how they, I mean, that's basically all I do. It's like about video games and philosophy. So, yeah. Just about how they relate to one another. And I'll probably just keep doing more of that and trying to find ways to mix it up and keep it fresh. So I'm looking forward to it. And I have to remember how I was doing what this build is. Oh. Oh, and thanks, Teo, for the welcome back. I'm curious, is anything actually happened since I've been gone? I've seen almost nothing. Um, so I have no clue if something crazy happened. I'm completely out of the loop. Oh. Oh, okay. Nuclear war. I probably should have expected that one. But ooh. Actually some class mods might be good. I don't know if anything fits. Hard to kill. Juggernaut. Yeah, what do I have? Oh, is it just shield capacity? Oh, wait, is that shield capacity? Yeah. Interesting, interesting. Oh, okay. Well, happy birthday, Bubbly. It's nice to hear. It seems like these last 3 weeks have not been crazy for most people in general. From what I've seen, it seems like it's been relatively chill. I I saw something about that Teo about um and I need to watch it because I kind of like Alex O'Connor. I've liked his stuff. He annoys me sometimes, but he does a good job of um I don't know, criticizing what I'm thinking of in a way that is productive. So I'm excited to see that. Oh, hey Neil, how's it going? I know you're headed on your break soon, so sorry if we miss each other. I probably should just equip these and just see where these are, because I don't know where these... Oh, it's like way far down. I'm never gonna get there. Max health, reload speed. Yeah, it's... I need to level up a little bit more before I even consider using a lot of these. Gun damage, shield capacity. We'll do this. Okay. So, I'm trying to remember where I was. I think I'm severely underleveled, but I have this gun. And this gun is pretty good for the boss up here. So maybe we can try this out. If we fail, it's okay. We'll just deal with it. And we can always come back to it. It doesn't hurt. Oh, nice. Okay. Cool, Neil. Then I'm looking forward to talking with you then. I was afraid I wasn't going to be able to talk to you very much, Neil, but if that's the case, then sweet. Then I might get that conversation together that we had been talking about. My thought is we can go chapter by chapter through a book and do like a weird YouTube book club. I think that would be kind of cool. I don't know. I'd have to gauge some interest from people, but if that works out, that would be really fun. I think that'd be a cool thing. I had thought about doing that solo at one point, kind of going chapter by chapter through a book. But I feel like it could be kind of awkward to manage, and so if we have a conversation going, I think that would be really fun. Where are these enemies? Are you missing them? Okay, they're flying up here. Ah, surveyors. Oh. Yeah, Tail, I was thinking about, Neil and I were talking about Orthodoxy by G.K. Chesterton. And I think that'd be a really good one. I think Dante could keep me accountable, maybe later, some other time. I think it'd be fun to also just have a spot to kind of come back to if I ever want to go through Dante again. But yeah, Orthodoxy by G.K. Chesterton. Just because I think I've finally convinced a few people to finally read it. Oh gosh. And I've been begging to talk about it with people. Just because it's had such a big impact on me. So much so that I just have on this channel, I have an audiobook version of it that I just took from LibriVox. The people who make not open source, but you know what I mean, like copyright-free audiobooks. And I just did some audio editing to make it a little bit better. It was kind of, I had like a weird fan in the background kind of sounding off. So I fixed that up, and then I just kind of put it on the channel. And so, yeah, it's available to even listen to. And it's not even a very long listen. It's maybe... How long is it? It's like a couple hours, maybe? It's super short. It's a... I was hoping to switch out. Okay, but to be fair, I think it's like 6 hours. 6 hours is not the shortest in the world, so I will admit that, but... Oh, dang, okay. Maybe we can do this, actually. I think this stupidly overpowered sniper rifle will be of some use. Yeah, okay, cool. Easy peasy. I definitely suggest checking it out. I think it's I mean, I think I've already kind of expressed my affection for the book, but it's up there with one of my... Actually, it's probably the most impactful book of my life. It does a really good job of flipping everything around. Getting every I don't know, all these assumptions that I've made in my life and just kind of challenging all of them, and in a way that's funny. Like he's hypercritical, but he's you know, it's the way it works. He just has such charisma that I don't know, he can laugh at you and have you laugh at yourself at the same time. Also because he's laughing at himself too. Hey Militia, I don't think I've seen you around, but welcome. And yeah, I think that's fair. I probably will be around for a long time. So, Oh, Orthodoxy by G.K. Chesterton is the book. Thinking about doing some sort of like virtual book club video series with a few people. So thinking about putting that together. And man, I don't know if I want to. Yeah, we can do this. It's fine. And just mentioning how there's an audiobook version on this channel that's I just took from like LibriVox, and it's available. So it's even here on YouTube. It's like 6 hours long, but it was a super impactful book in my life, and that's why it's here. Probably want to sell a bunch of stuff. I'll level up soon too. Maybe I'll I'm kind of caught. I kind of want to. There's kind of a point of no return here, and I'm deciding whether or not to do it or not. We might as well. We'll just sell off a bunch of stuff we have and go for it. Yeah, we don't need that. We can keep this, and we can get rid of that. The outer backpack. Yeah, Chesterton definitely got me into poetry as well. That was part of what started this whole poetry business of mine. And I think he just has a lot of good stuff to say about, even though he wrote, like, what, in the 1930s? He has a lot of stuff that I think is, I don't know, pretty valid and stuff to consider today. Melee damage. Poetry does hit different. I think the key to poetry is that it's not I don't know. It's able to talk about things in a way that no other medium is able to talk about. It can kind of come alongside instead of like facing directly at, if that makes sense. Oh, where do I need to go? I need to press these buttons. Oh, for people who don't know the story, Grim was saying that I should tell people what's going on if I'm not going to have the people talking. Sanctuary is being bombed, and we're activating some sort of mysterious device that we don't know what it's going to do. But it's supposed to save everything, so that's something that's going on. Hey, Corner Citizen, how's it going? I'm always afraid to use your real name because you've changed it, like your username. So I'm gonna still call you Corner Citizen. But how's it going? It's been a while. For Kafka and Dostoevsky, I am a big Dostoevsky fan. I've read a lot of the short stories and some of his like shorter novels, and then Brothers K I've read. Is she gonna let me give this to her? Okay. Yeah, Brothers Karamazov I think is probably one of the best books I've read. And I think I just need to go back to it. It was really influential. I need to go back to Crime and Punishment. Kafka on the, or I've also read like White Nights. I think is amazing. It was the first book I read with my wife, when she was not my wife yet. And what else? Notes from Underground is one of those other books that was hugely influential on me. And yeah, Kafka. I haven't read too much Kafka. I've read Metamorphosis in school, and that was about it. And it was a little weird. But I don't know. I need to get into surrealism more. I just haven't really stuck to it. Yeah, I haven't done too much reading as much as I should lately. I've been a little distracted by, I don't know, weird things. I started playing Pokemon Mystery Dungeon again recently. And that game is way better than it has any right to be. So I've been going back to the DS one. I thought about trying to pull it up for this stream, but I don't know. I'd have to switch over devices with what I'm playing on and trying to find a way to hook that up. So maybe that'll be a different time. But yeah. And also, okay, cool. Thank you for letting me know, Alan, that I can call you that. Some people have their privacy things, so I don't want to I don't know. I don't want to impose on that if that's not what people want. Don't want to dox you. Yeah, in retrospect, talking having, I don't know. It was before we were even dating. We had read like each other's favorite books. So I read, what's that book called? Picture of Dorian Gray, which was like one of her favorite books at the time. Oh, that guy's close. Oh no. Okay. Well, Pictures of Dorian Gray, and she read White Nights that I had recommended as like a really short Dostoevsky book. In retrospect, the White Nights is just really depressing about just a guy who, you know, falls in love with a woman and it goes horribly wrong, and it seems like it's gonna go have a happy ending, and that has the saddest ending. Is Pokemon Mystery Dungeon better than Brothers K? You know, Alan, maybe. It's not. Just because of story. I think games are some of the best works of art. But for the most part, most games don't have good story. They get distracted by gameplay, which is fine. Gameplay's great. But in this case, reduces recoil, additional lead shot, has a chance to improve your accuracy. Accuracy or chance to add bullets. And we're gonna add bullets. What was I saying? Yeah, most games don't focus on good story, and if they do, the gameplay suffers. And there are very few games that kind of try to split the difference well. I think Death Stranding tries really hard and does an admirable job, but even then it fails in several ways. It gets too caught up in the narrative and like the meta narrative it's trying to tell, and not spending time actually in the, I don't know, taking advantage of the fact that it's a game. So that's my thought. So I don't think there's too many games that can beat that. But I think a game with like a really good story but amazing gameplay could challenge Brothers K. That is my serious answer to your silly question. Yeah, I need to check out Kafka a little bit more. I've heard amazing things about him. And I just read him when I was like... Oh my gosh, there's a guy like right behind me? Where are these guys? Sheesh. I feel like I'm missing everything. Oh my gosh. Okay. What major did I take in college or uni? I took what's it called? Computer science was my major. I considered doing a philosophy major, like a double major, but decided against it because it would be a lot of classes, and it would have been a lot of writing alongside a lot of coding, very late nights. And I decided against it. So I decided to go for a Greek minor instead. So I have a minor in ancient Greek. So got to enjoy some of that classical language stuff. A Greek minor doesn't get you as far as you would hope in even understanding Greek. So my friend Ups from Cyprus regularly corrects my understanding of Greek, and I'm very grateful for that. But I do computer science stuff now. I do software testing, and yeah, that's mostly what I do. And then when I can at work, I do a little bit of development. Because we have like internal tools that we use, and so I try to take every opportunity I can to mess around with that. But yeah, that's mostly what I do. And yes, Grim, search for your friends. Especially when they disappear. Dang. Nice. Ups, you're here. You just have to speak Up's name and he appears. Okay, I am having trouble looking at chat, so I'm going to do this. And look, okay. There's a blue ghost woman. Yes, there's a blue ghost woman. And she talks to you, and you're constantly questioning her motives. What do you think of taking a year off of high school before joining college? You want to do coding, develop coding skills, and a little book business. Yeah, I honestly think, and this is just my thought, if you can do coding without doing college, I would recommend it. If that's a possibility for you, if you're able to make it work, I think that's amazing. In my experience, computer science does not, like a degree in computer science doesn't prepare you for like software development. What it prepares you for is learning all of the lower level stuff, which is really nice, but isn't helpful for like real life skills. So I recommend yeah, I'd recommend considering it if it's a possibility for you, and especially if you can, you know, you have time to consider that. And yeah, try developing your coding skills, see if you can you know, get something going. And ideally, you wouldn't have to start college unless you need it for a job and you want to have a job that requires a degree. So that's my recommendation. Man, these guys, they move so fast. Okay, I'll have to watch Chad's live stream then. I've been kind of bad at getting back into watching everybody's stuff just because I don't know. I'm trying to catch it when it's coming. I just haven't been good at keeping track again. So I'll have to get back into it. But I've also been watching, and I know Grim, I was gonna say this before you showed up, but now I'm a little afraid to say, but I've been watching more TV lately. And some of these shows that like my friends have been recommending for a long time, I'm watching and I'm like, oh, actually there's a lot of good stuff going on here that I didn't expect. So we'll see if I can participate in conversations with the coworkers, because normally I am incapable of doing that. I can finally talk to them about, you know, Jujutsu Kaisen or something. If you're a coder, go to college for the social interaction bootcamp. Yeah, I think that's true. You need to find a way to connect with people, and that was something that was really good. And so if you're not going to college, I recommend being a part of a community of some sort. Whether that's, you know, an estuary group nearby, if that is, you know, whatever, like, religious option organization that's around you, if that's, like, some sort of D&D group that meets, something. It's really easy to not have connection with people when you're, you know, yeah, when you're not in college and you're young and you don't have a lot of, you know, a lot of people around. College forces you to be around others. Yeah, or at least a WoW rating guild. Something. Yeah. Even if it's TLC. I think TLC is, hanging around these channels is pretty helpful. Fallout was good. I liked Fallout. I felt there was, I think the only thing I had with Fallout was that, the social commentary was right, but it was too on the nose. It was too obvious. I like a little subtlety. I didn't feel like they did that justice. That, you know, there are plenty of people who have beliefs I disagree with, who have good reasons for believing the things they do, and they're not all stupid or crazy. But that's one thing I've often found to be troublesome. And I think Fallout, for the most part, does a better job than the TV show did at kind of talking about how Vault-Tec is crazy and evil. And the video games point to science as being a major issue in that like this search for scientific knowledge is what led them down on a bad path. But the TV show was like, no, it was all like social progress. I've been watching anime. So I've been watching Demon Slayer and Jujutsu Kaisen. And I watched the first season of Jujutsu Kaisen. And it was actually really, really interesting. Like the oh man, does it cross? I might have to wait. Yeah, So that does a really interesting job of talking about, like, I don't know, the way the world is. The world is, it's kind of like the Matrix. Like, the world isn't what it seems, and it puts a kind of plausible frame around the world that there's a, like, you know, a layer of demons around you, and they aren't actively trying to, like, kill you all the time, but sometimes they are. And so what do you do? I was like, oh yeah, like that, they did a good job of doing that, and there's a few moments throughout the show that do cool things. One thing that I've had trouble with in general, and I want to make a video about this, is about how a lot of anime is coded like self-help, but it's like not the most helpful self-help. Oh, Teo, I just started season 2, and let me tell you. Oh, I'm completely ignoring the objective. Can I just do that? Wait. This is weird. Okay. I was not paying attention at all. But season 2 starts out and it's crazy. I really like season 2. And I'm really enjoying it. And so my time is now split between another thing. And but, you know, oh well. I was wondering why all these enemies were not spawning. I will get to my friends. I thought there was a little bit more I needed to get to my friends, but apparently I need to run across the map again. Let's hope I don't get blown up. That's true. I should make a commentary video. There's a few commentary videos there. There's the weird kind of philosophical connections that are in Jujutsu Kaisen. There's I don't know, the self-help stuff. Some of it helpful, some of it not. But there's actually a scene in the first season, towards the end. It's like one of the last episodes that really hit home. And it was a bit about this guy, and he's kind of obsessed with, and this isn't like a major character trait. It's not like he's OCD or anything, but he's kind of obsessed with, you know, being right. Oh, what in the world? Oh, it couldn't find the location. Okay. So we have to stand here for a second. About kind of being perfect and having precise technique, and that, you know, every punch is like supposed to be correct. And this fight, when he's actually having to fight for his life, he comes to the realization that he doesn't really have to. Okay, now I have to go. Okay, that was silly, but I had to stick around for a short conversation telling me I can't get to my friends. But that kind of moment really hit, where it's this recognition that, like, oh, I don't need to. Sometimes you just have to live life and actually just try and do it, and just go for it. And then once you do it, then you're I don't know, you come to this realization that that's how you actually get good, is that you're willing to make mistakes. And so I thought that captured something that I've been thinking about for a while. And it was kind of cool to see it in a show where, you know, most television is not necessarily doing a good job at that. So self-help, I think, is usually really hit or miss. Sometimes it's really good, and sometimes it's I don't know. It kind of comes from the AA stuff. Over the break I read The Big Book, because everybody's been talking about it, and so I finally read it. and they were right to recommend it and talk about it all the time because it was amazing. Hopefully it'll cross. There we go. And in that, what was I saying? In the other self-help stuff, it's all about like, oh, you have this. If you just train hard enough, you'll be good, and you'll be way better than everybody else. Blah blah blah. And it's just not. It's not really helpful, in my opinion. I think that kind of stuff is just. It can lead people down bad paths. It's usually good. Like sometimes it's the clean your room kind of stuff, and that kind of stuff I think is super helpful. But sometimes you aren't enough. You don't have everything in you to actually do the thing. And that's where I think AA is super helpful in pointing that out. Oh, let's do this. Ugh. Dang. Oh, there we go. Oh, no, 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 no. No, 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 no. Oh, gosh. Why? There we go. But a lot of the reason why I started watching anime was just because my, like, both my coworkers, but then also my old Catholic roommates watch a lot of anime. And so now this is another way I can finally kind of connect with them on talking about stuff. Okay, see you, Militia. Have a good night. 3 a.m. Sheesh. Yeah. I started trying to watch some of these other shows, and I feel like I have a really tough time getting into the first few episodes of any show, really. Like, it really has to hook me to get me to actually watch it. And for the most part, shows don't do that. Trying to think of other things. Like, for example, oh, level 19. Sheesh. For example, I started watching, what's that show? Attack on Titan. And it just felt like, too depressing, too fast. It was very, it's very much along the lines of like the kind of saddest parts of like a Game of Thrones or something. But yeah. Let's see here. To get over here. Oh no. Bro, it's this part. This section is probably one of my lesser favorite parts. It's like a defense, like almost like a tower defense kind of section without the towers. It's just you. You're defending the goal. Let's see if we can just grab some ammo or something. Oh no, not ammo. There we go. remembering now. Oh, dang it. I missed Alan's point about the story. Alan was saying that he's played through Borderlands 2 and all the DLC and he still doesn't understand the story. And I would agree with that if I have only played through Borderlands 2 once. But I played through this game too many times to not have an understanding of this long and tedious story. See ya, Ups. Have a good one. See you, Grim. Have a good one. Enjoy the StarCraft grind. Oh wait, Ups, you're not leaving. Okay. I'm mistaken. I can't. I probably shouldn't read while I'm doing this. Where's this gun? There we go. Oh gosh. Oh, there it is. I don't know why this frame rate is absolutely crashing, but maybe that's something I should pay attention to. Oh, okay. Yeah, I've seen the first 2 seasons of Rick and Morty. I don't know, I think generally it's pretty good. I think sometimes I think there's a point where it gets to, it's hard to tell a story that has certain nihilist elements to it. And it's interesting to see how they avoid that, but for the most part, there's an aspect of the story that, I don't know, it kind of gets stuck in it. Like it can't escape it, because there's a certain, if everything is infinite and there's all the multiverses, then like why is there any significance to any of it? And then it kind of points at that and kind of laughs about that, and then proceeds to like show that nothing really matters. And there's only so much you can do in that, right? Like to play around with that idea. And there's a point where you kind of just get lost in it, and you don't really have another. You don't have a way to tell a story anymore without characters that really matter, because in the end they're just going to, you know, die anyway. But I know they've been doing a lot of new stuff too, so I need to kind of get back into it, but and see if they've been able to avoid that issue. But that's what I suspect is kind of going on, and that's what I saw towards the end of my time watching the show. But that being so, I still have not. I haven't seen too many TV shows. I'm a little bit more well versed in movies because I had a group together in college, and we all kind of sat around and we would watch movies every Friday night. And we would just watch anything. So I've seen a lot of bad movies that just don't have, like, I know how a bad movie works pretty well. We've seen a couple really good movies. But yeah, that's where I have a little bit more knowledge. So my knowledge is really spotty. Like, if there's a meme with like a bad movie clip, I've seen about half of those. I feel a good number. And then there's a surprising number of like classic movies I still haven't seen. And I don't know. There's just so much. There's not enough time in the world to do all this stuff. That's what I've been struggling with. Like television shows especially. And that's why it's taken me forever to get into television. Is because there's just not enough time to watch all the, you know, hundreds of hours of television that you have to sink in to keep caught up. Ooh. I'm trying to think of what else I've been thinking about. So yeah, I read The Big Book. I really enjoyed it. That might be worth talking about at some point. But I also know that I don't know how much I have to add to that conversation. Maybe just expressing my thankfulness to AA for even writing that book. Even though I don't have any kind of, you know, I'm not an alcoholic, but I think that book has a lot to say about things that indirectly, things that need to be addressed in society. So I think that's helpful. What else? What else have I been paying attention to or watching or whatever? Oh, this is just taking me to the Highlands? Can I just go to the Highlands? I feel like that would be faster. What else? Part of the reason too, I'm jumping around topics with Rick and Morty, is just also with the creator, or one of the creators, kind of being gone for a season. I don't know. It's kind of weird to me to have a show and then to not have like one of the main people who made it not around anymore. Very different situations for why people aren't around. I know, but like Kojima, I don't know, it was always weird to me to have like his work and IP, something that's always been associated with him, to be kind of you know, played around with by someone else. It's just weird. I don't really have any better word for it. Let's put a level in. We'll do this recoil one. I feel like I'm going the wrong way. I feel like there's like something over here. Around the corner. Nice, okay. Here we go. Yeah. I don't know if I've mentioned this before, but part of the reason I like movies more than TV shows generally, even though TV shows have a really great capacity to tell stories over long periods of time, which it doesn't always use, but when it's used well, it's used to good effect. Like Breaking Bad, for example, I think is a great show that takes advantage of this, of telling a story over a person's, you know, life, and they can really slow down the arcs of the character and everything, which isn't very, I don't know, it can't be done very easily in a movie, but that means it's also a lot harder to do well, and means that a lot of people do it poorly, and they make bad like stories about characters. So I don't want to invest a lot of time in something that, you know, isn't going to not end well, but like isn't a good story, especially if it doesn't get good for a while. This whole thing about I mean, it's the meme, right, about the show gets good after season 17. I mean, not really, but yeah. Like, I have to watch lots of a show before it gets good. Whereas, you know, if the beginning of a movie is slow, it's like, okay, yeah, I can make it through 30 minutes and be okay. Because that's the equivalent of watching one episode of bad TV and then it being followed by, you know, a whole season that's wonderful. But that's just not the, you know, it's not the same thing. And I can even watch a bad movie and just be like, okay, well, that 2 hours was over, and I sat there the entire time, and I watched it, I didn't like it, and I can move on. Whereas a TV show, I feel like that's part of the reason why people get so up in arms, is because they've committed to this. This has been a long-term investment for them, and for it to end poorly, kind of, it is bad taste. Doesn't feel great. Story. Just so we know what's going on. Oh gosh. Is it gonna fly in? No? Okay. The story is that he got his pet kidnapped, and we're going to save him. And there's an upgrade we need from here that Oh gosh. That'll turn Claptrap invisible. Yeah, the guy who was voicing Rick and Morty, the both of them, was like he was like a really big part of the script writing team. Like he was one of the creators of the show. Um, Justin Roiland was like pretty big. I don't know. Before the all that crazy stuff went down, where he was going through a trial and everything, I was already not the biggest fan of his, like, some of his personal sense of humor kind of stuff. Like I was okay with the TV show. I think the TV show did a better balance. But when it was just his kind of humor, when I think he made a video game. Um, he definitely made a video game. It was like a VR, oh, not VR game. He made a VR game, but he made quite a few games. Um, and yeah, it felt like oh, what? Are you serious? This is also kind of silly. Oh, I think all the variables are getting messed up. But yeah, he made a video game, and I don't know. He just has a sense of humor that I don't connect with as much. I don't think it's a bad sense of humor by any means. It's just it's kind of like sometimes it feels like it's just, let's say, nihilist things, and it's funny. And I don't know. There's a point where it's like I don't know. It's yeah, it's nihilism. But that's just me being really cynical and mean. I think like most people, good art isn't made in a group. And so, you know, when you work together to kind of make the best out of both your personal style and what other people think, it avoids the problem that, you know, some of the Star Wars movies have had, where there's a voice that's a little too strong on the set that end up how do I say this? There's a yes man mentality of, let's just do whatever this one guy says because he is successful, and they never get kind of questions. But if they get questions, it creates better art. I don't remember where this goes. I think it's all the way up there. Because it's always a negotiation. It's not just like one guy. Every piece of art like that requires a team, unless you're doing it all by yourself. Which you can, but there's definitely a limit on what your scope can be for any piece of art if you're just doing it by yourself. Gosh, surveyors. Oh gosh. There we go. Okay. Okay, okay. Ah. Ooh, this guy's following me. What else have I been doing? For Pokemon Mystery Dungeon, as I was mentioning earlier, I beat the Game Boy Advance version, the Red Rescue Team, and after that, oh gosh, these guys. Dang. It's just really strong. Sheesh. Back to Monkey Islands, they solved the problem of assigning each visual artist to a different zone to find a solution to that. Yeah, it's I mean it's the constant problem that I feel like every organization runs into is you have a figure like Steve Jobs who everybody kind of looks to as being like the genius. And everybody wants to kind of follow their direction, but that person can't do everything. And so how do you organize around them? And sometimes what you have to do is you don't have to do this. This is one solution that many people fall into, which is let's just, have them take the lead and let them kind of direct everyone and let everyone else be completely obedient to their will. And you get a little bit of that with, like I was talking about before, with Star Wars, the prequel movies. You get that kind of impression that no one else had much of a say because George Lucas made so much money on the first few movies. They said, well, obviously this guy must be a genius, so let's just give him what he wants. Some people love those movies, and some people hate those movies. But I think, honestly, it probably would have been better if a little bit more restrictions were put on. There were more limitations. I think limitations make the best art. Someone said, oh, it's Chesterton. Chesterton in Orthodoxy says, art is limitation. Like they're indistinguishable. All art requires limitation. Because if you don't have limitation, you don't have any freedom to make anything. But that's his position. And like you were saying, Ups, the other one can often be providing regional representation. You have every section of the game has its own creator. The issue that you can run into with that, though, is that it can lack cohesion. And for example, that was the problem with Starfield, where most people would expect that Starfield, which was made by the creator of the Fallout, the new Fallout games, Skyrim, Todd Howard, he kind of headed up that project. And most people would expect that in a project like that, you would have a like a commanding, like Todd Howard would be the commanding guy, and everyone else would be following his lead. But the problem that Starfield had was it was the opposite. There was no direction. The game literally did not have a design document. People were told that if they wanted a design document, they should just play the game. Which, I don't know if that hits anybody else, but at least in my work, the idea of designing anything without a design document that states what this thing is even going to be is absolutely insane. And this isn't like a little project, right? If this was like a team of 5 people or whatever, that'd be one thing. But this was a large AAA video game being published by one of the biggest companies on Earth that had no design document because they wanted creative freedom, but they didn't even know what mechanics were going to be in the final game. They just were going to follow their gut. That is the opposite problem. There is no cohesion in the game. And there are, numerous times in that game where mechanics that are really cool are never used because no one knew that they were even going to be in the final version of the game. And that's just absolutely insane to me. So, if you ever hear people talk about Starfield and why it maybe fails to do things well, I firmly believe that's like 90% of it. Is that there was no cohesion in its creation. And that can't really be put on anybody's blame because, I mean, it's mostly leadership, to be honest, right? And most people think of the problem of leadership is that it's too firm. That's usually what it comes down to, what people talk about. That it was too strict. This is the opposite failure. This is the failure of not strict enough leadership. That someone should say, no, we are going to be putting our foot down and saying this is what our game is going to look like. Yeah, that's true too. Like, I think the smaller scale is way different. Like Monkey Island, that's like visual cohesion too. That's like artistic, not mechanical, which I think is way different too. If somebody comes up and says like, oh, this art style is a little different in this place, that can actually add to the piece potentially. But as you expand projects to this kind of ridiculous level that we have, where one game costs like millions of dollars to make, yeah, there needs to be some sort of expectation of, oh my gosh, he just absolutely wrecked me. Dang. Okay. Well, I guess I can just talk here. Yeah, I think that's the main thing. I'm reaching a point where I think the future of video games is going to be like video games as art is going to be firmly in the indie space. I don't see AAA's pushing things anywhere close to where indies are at. And who knows, maybe we'll see a change with how Baldur's Gate did and see something change there. But my hopes are not very far up. Gosh. I just got destroyed again. And it's hard to avoid this kind of pattern we see in games with you know, solo devs who make a game from scratch all by themselves. And I don't know, we see this, and they make games that are just absolutely crazy. Team Cherry made this game, Hollow Knight. I think they're like 3 people, but that game is just incredible. I think they were maybe at most 5 people on that team, and it's crazy. It's one of the best indie games in my opinion that have ever been made, and made by one person, or I mean, not made by one person, but made by like just a super small team. Stardew Valley, another amazing game, also made by like one person. He made like everything except for the multiplayer. I think the multiplayer was done by some other help later on, just to get everything up and running. You have games like Undertale that, you know, also one person made the entire game. So I don't know. It's man, I just might have to leave this area. I'd love to talk to more game devs ups. I think it'd be cool to also get Neil in on some of those conversations, just because he has a little bit more experience. But I'm actually gonna take a screenshot of that, just so it reminds me to maybe reach out and see if you'd want to talk. I saw that one of my favorite game directors of all time is Josh Sawyer, and I'd really love to be able to talk to him at some point. I saw that he actually responded to like a really tiny YouTube channel of like maybe 1,000 subscribers, kind of out of nowhere, who wanted to talk to him about one of his games. And I was like, oh, if he's willing to talk to someone who's not that big, maybe I have a chance. So we'll see. I need to find time, not find time. I just need to reach out and try. I've tried a few times with some people with no response, but I probably should just put out a bunch of feelers and see if we can get talking to people. Someone else I wanted to talk to at one point was what's his name? Jonathan Blow. Jonathan Blow is another kind of indie dev. He has like a relatively small team. He's kind of running up against the kind of limitations that come with having a small team. And so I'd be curious to talk to him about that and his thoughts on some of this stuff. But yeah, that'll be a really cool thing. I think part of my hesitation would mostly just be from, I don't know if I'm a skilled enough interviewer. So personal thoughts. But you know what? Like I was saying before, you just kind of have to do things and understand you're not going to do it perfectly. And I thought the Brendan Graham Dempsey interview went well enough, so maybe I would be able to do it and not totally make it awkward or make it weird. Ooh. Okay, let me get that name too. Sweet. Who else was I thinking of? I mean, if I'm putting together a list, I think Tim Kaine would also be a really cool guy to talk to. He's the guy behind the old Fallout games, or one of the guys behind the old Fallout games. So it'd be cool to kind of pick his brain over RPGs. That's kind of a lot of where my interest is in video games anyway, and so getting a few voices in that space of RPGs would be really cool to kind of talk about some of these things with. See if there's any interest too in the way I think about these things, because I don't know if a lot of that is reflected in I don't know, in the industry, or even people who spend their lives making these things. I don't know if they, at what level do they think about this, or do they just, like, you know, create things. Sometimes thinking gets in the way of actually doing the actual thing. The theory crafting versus the invested time. That might be a good way to put it. Okay, looks like we're going to level up a bit. Not quite at a point where it's reasonable. Yeah, so that's a good point up. So I should put out some requests to talk to people. Sometimes those take a long time to schedule anyway, so it wouldn't even be bad to mess around with that. Oh, there we go. Who else have I been thinking about? I've also been thinking about artists in general. I talked to, no, haven't talked to. I've read Rick Rubin's book, and I've really enjoyed his conversations with people. He's a really good. Oh, nice, Prince of Persia. I still haven't played Prince of Persia. I need to. It's one of those kind of gaps in my video game knowledge. But Rick Rubin has a lot of really cool stuff, and I do want to mess around with that. He had a really good conversation too with Nick Cave. That's someone else I'd love to talk to. For people who are like kind of closer to my age, I really want to talk to Montel Fish. He makes music, and he does some really cool stuff with just with art in general. Oh gosh, why? There we go. Okay. So I'd love to kind of pick his brain about, you know, his stuff. I'm pretty familiar with all his music, and so it'd be really cool to kind of hear more about that. But I don't think he does too many interviews, so I think that would be part of the tough part. I also don't know how to get in contact with him. I've tried DMing him through Instagram, but I don't know if that's it's also through my personal account, so I don't think that's a very reliable way to connect with people. So maybe I'll find a way that's a little bit more I don't know, attention grabbing, and that would make my intentions known. So I think he's one of those people that has a lot of people who want to, like, you know, expose him or something, and so having a friendly face would be nice. Yeah, there's a few people like you're talking about like making it cinematic. I'm curious to know How so? I know that there's a few people who come to mind who kind of changed the genre. Um, I know Kojima is huge, partially just because of Metal Gear Solid, where it's one of the first times where like uh, he adds like voice acting to a point. Oh my gosh. No. Okay, there we go. He added voice acting and crazy animations in a 3D space. It was basically like a, you know, like a movie that you played through, which was crazy. Free Carson from prison? Gosh. Who else? Yeah, I think Montelfish is one of those people though, who I'd love to talk to. Um, hmm. I mean, it's a little bit more plausible, but I have not really gotten too much of a chance. I'd love to talk with Paul sometime. Have a sit down with Paul Vanderklay. Um, it's weird to me that I don't know. Sometimes it feels a little bit more implausible than like talking to one of these major video game like directors and stuff. But oh gosh. Well, speaking of conversations too, ups, I think I just need to sit down and have a conversation with people around this little corner, including you. I know we had talked about it at one point and we had put some plans together, but um, I just haven't gotten back to you and should do that. And I know you just put a comment down a little earlier and I have not been able to read it yet. Right here. Okay. Filmed his brother making jumps, moves with the camera, and then transfer those to the games in terms of game mechanics. Yeah, that's interesting. So it's more like realistic animations, it sounds like. Trying to not quite rotoscoping, but I could see that being how it plays. Oh gosh. I just lost everything. There we go. I think I might just need a new shield or something. I am really just behind. This is what happens when you don't do any side quests. There we go. Oh, okay. Who else was I thinking about too? Because I want to talk to you. I need to talk to Teo one-on-one. I still haven't talked to Teo one-on-one. But we were able to get that conversation with Clara going, which was nice. Who else? I've been able to talk to Chad. Still haven't talked to Neil. Still need to talk to Mick Mo one-on-one. I haven't done that yet. So there's just a few of these things. Thank you, Ups, for please DM those to me. I'm super interested in all the game dev stuff. At some point I'll try making something. I think that might be next year's big project, is like making games. And so I might be doing some game dev stuff next year. You know, this is where you kind of put in all the things you're thinking about really late in the stream, where not as many people will see it. And, you know, the whole thing with the... Afriel was left a comment on a longer video the other day, and reacting to me saying that this is where you say all the controversial stuff. But I guess I can mention what I was thinking, and then that way no one will think that it's absolutely set in stone. But one of the next series I want to work on is making... Everybody's showing up now. I feel like 2 people showed up since I said that I was going to say something. But anyway, I was thinking about my next series maybe being a series exploring the role, not the role, the genre of RPGs, just in general, and looking at the many facets of how RPGs exist and are represented, and the inherent philosophy behind the mechanics of RPGs. I think I ran into this a little bit when I was trying to find ways to play Fallout with like certain types of Eastern mysticism. And yeah, all you have to say is controversy and everybody shows up. Yeah, and so I was thinking about that, and then I realized, oh, this is interesting. That kind of has to do with the self-help angle, about how there are lots of like self-help-ish elements to RPGs. Like RPGs are all about kind of powering up and getting strong, and if you can't do something, you just practice enough and it's gonna work out. There is never really you're not really, so you are meant to fail certain encounters in RPGs, but rarely are you supposed to fail them and never surpass them, right? You're always supposed to, in the end, win the fight. And so there's that element. Man, I'm getting distracted. Oh no. Gosh, let me deal with this and then I'll keep rambling. Okay. So that was one element. Nice. Chance to have bullets. So gosh. Okay, now I have to go back and remember what I was saying. So, for example, I I don't know what a Taoist game would look like. And I've tried to comprehend this. And many people will point to Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon as a Taoist film. Or Star Wars as a Taoist film. Because the Force is somehow... has like something to do with the Tao. But it's not quite right. Like, it doesn't quite fit in. There is a certain amount of, like, surrender that happens in Taoism. And in general, in, like, even Christianity, too. And so, finding a way to, like, say, is there a way to reflect this in video games? And if so, is it even possible in the RPG genre, or is RPG the way it's crafted made to represent these certain things that we have in our culture? So that was something. Yeah, I'm curious. I have not played Heartbound yet. I have it on my wish list. I don't know. There's something about playing a game that's not done yet that I want to be able to sit down and enjoy it. But I am really interested to see what Thor's game is going to look like. I think, I don't know. I've really liked his content and his, I hate the word content, his videos and shorts and everything. He hasn't made videos, he makes streams, but I am, I'm looking forward to trying it out and seeing what he has to offer. But yeah, I have a lot of questions about, you know, what is is there any inherent kind of ideology hidden underneath the idea of an RPG? I think there's a good question there. Oh, yeah, this. Yeah, I'll make the content. So I have the document open. I just need to sit down and write. So I wrote a little bit before the stream. But you know what? I am double tasking, you know, because I'm getting footage right now that I can use in a video later. But I still have a lot of questions about what does I'm always kind of questioning the format of something. And if I want to make a series, I don't want to stick to a format that I'm going to change later on. And maybe I just need to make mistakes and go with it. And learn those lessons. But XP gain from combat. I will equip that. Yes, please. So yeah, that's part of the question I want to explore. There's a bunch of other questions I want to get at too. For example, what is I'll drop that. What else? Like, what is a JRPG? I think I saw a video from SkillUp a while back where he was interviewing Yoshi P, the creator of the new Final Fantasy game, the Final Fantasy 16. And he asked him in this interview that he did something about JRPGs, and Yoshi P got really mad. And Ralph, the guy who runs SkillUp, was really surprised. He was like, "What in the world? Why is he mad about me mentioning JRPGs?" And Yoshi P took it as an offensive term. That it's like a derogatory term to refer to Japanese RPGs as if they're not really RPGs. And that surprised me. And Ralph seemed pretty pretty okay with just saying like, you know, he's kind of right and blah blah blah. And I don't know. I thought about making a video where it's like, well, not really. You know, JRPGs are a thing, and they're just they're different. They're not it's not a bad thing, but it's not the same thing as a Western RPG. And here's why. And I wanted to kind of, you know, list it out and explain these differences and these different focuses. And just kind of point out, like, for example, choice and consequence is not a feature of many Japanese RPGs. And I think for the most part, the only exceptions to a lot of what I would say is Dark Souls, strangely enough. I think Dark Souls is a very like revolutionary. That whole series, I think, is very revolutionary for a lot of the tropes common in JRPGs. Oh wait, I'm catching up now. Yeah, they have to have a philosophy, since there's an expected route. That's one bit. Some of them allow for you know, more navigation around that. Like you were saying, there are multiple paths available. But the problem that comes, and I think you already kind of know this too, is there's no choice not to follow the path. Like, very rarely is there a point that you can say, you know what, I'm not playing this anymore. Like, it doesn't make sense for my character to continue. And, yeah, that's just a little, like, a little strange. Yeah, and I think I would agree with you, Afril. I think that it is a Western style RPG made by a Japanese company with like with, you know, a certain Japanese style to it, but it's made in the style of Western RPGs, which makes it super interesting. Like, there's not too many games that cross that divide. And you see that a lot with maybe indie games that try to reflect JRPG styles. Chained Echoes being one of them. A Sea of Stars is another one. You have a few games here that all do that. Well, and that's the question, right? Is like, what is an RPG? Like, you're asking about the difference between a sandbox and an RPG. And I think it comes down to, like, what is the essential function of an RPG? Some people will point out that oh dang, I have to put the stupid thing on there. Some people will point to the mechanics and say that is the RPG. The RPG is you level up, and there's not a narrative function. And I think this is just like one of those language things where you know, you can just kind of say whatever, and it just changes, and you just kind of have to go with it and say, like, okay, well, some people think that this is the oh, I forgot, you have to go inside immediately after, I think. There's a lot of here, but some people point to the gameplay. They say, oh, it's the leveling up and everything, and some people will say it's the narrative. But there's also the choice, right? And that's the other question. Is there choice involved in your RPG, both in character creation and builds? Because a lot of, like, JRPGs don't have builds for the most part. You might have party builds, but you know, if you have a monk on your team, it's the same thing as having a different monk on your team in the end. There are very few choices. And it's only been recently where I've seen more and more choices being added to this style of game. And for the most part, you might have like one branching path at the end. You kind of have a Shin Megami Tensei kind of thing where you can either choose the bad path or the good path. And so it's just interesting. I want to explore this. I think there's a lot of really cool stuff underneath the surface. I'm not sure if if too many people will find this super interesting. I suppose if somebody's already watching my channel, they'll probably be interested. But who knows? There's just so many different like ways of understanding all of this. Yeah. What in the world is going on? Why are they all walking over here? Interesting. Yeah. I'll think about that for a second. So, I think when I think of JRPG, I think of Dragon Quest. Is it 10? The I don't even know how to distinguish all of them. Where it's just like you're basically playing an anime. Like you're the main character of the anime. And you're leveling up with the crew and whatever, and you're engaging in these story beats. And that seems to be the style of, it feels like it evolved with the anime genre, right? And so as anime changes, that storytelling, it also, each one affects the other, and you see these different types of storytelling kind of come out. And so that's why I think Berserk had a huge influence on Dark Souls. I think it's partially because, oh, it's down here. Is because it broke so many conventions, and in a way was along like a, it really just went, went right whenever everybody else went left. But that's just my intuition. Yeah, and I think you're right about the having choices that matter is incredibly difficult. Just mechanically, like making a game like that is I think to say it's difficult is almost too easy. And so that's why you see like most modern games, as they are, exploding in the amount of money that's being used to make them. The idea of like locking off content for players is crazy them. And you see that with Skyrim. Skyrim is one of these biggest examples of this idea where besides the DLC, you can do anything. And you can do all the things, and there's not a real choice. And in the end, people might get mad at me for this, but in the end, the difference between the Imperials and the Stormcloaks is one wears blue and one wears red. Like, there's no mechanical uniqueness to all of it. Yeah, and I think Baldur's Gate kind of points out this divide that comes up in the process. Baldur's Gate does something that no one else really thought about doing, which is what if we made an RPG that, like, took this all super seriously and didn't use the excuse that it was going to be too hard, but actually did it. And that's not me trying to put down anybody, because, you know, I know that this is a really hard, a really hard thing to do, is to make an RPG, but they did it, and it's crazy. And so I can understand why people would be frustrated to say, like, well, we can't do that with our current resources, and I think it's fair. For most people, the way their company works, it won't allow for that. But these guys are slow. There we go. Yeah, Baldur's Gate 3 though, I think is one of these points where everybody's asking the question, will we ever see a game like this ever again? Because the amount of, I don't know what the word would be, lack of trust, like lack of trust in institutions in general, is super low. And it's not just true of like governments and of religions, it's true of video games as well. Nobody really trusts Xbox anymore, especially after they shut down so many studios. And so could we ever see another thing like this again? And, you know, who really knows? I guess that's the problem with this whole question too, is I don't know if we could ever see an indie game get close to Baldur's Gate 3 though. Just because of pure scope. Like there's no way that we could see that. And maybe this is just, you know, by me saying this, I'm stopping it from happening. So maybe I should stop saying that there's no way that this could happen. But there's a reason why that team was as big as it was. And basically the only reason that was able to work, and I know people have been mad at me for saying this, and I've said it for a while, is that the current way, man, I sound like a communist or something. The current way that our, like, the incentive structure for making video games is inherently broken. That money is not a good way of, like, understanding art. And if you make video games for the purpose of making money, you're not going to do it. And this is the weird part about, you're bringing up interesting points, but like the main piece is that, oh gosh, where did I have to accept a different quest? Weird. Okay, I might have to go back. But that your very point about an indie studio funded by a previous success, that's Larian. Like Larian is basically funded by their last few games doing increasingly better and better. And it's owned not by a company but by like one guy. I think somebody has a stake in it, but Sven Vinke, the guy who owns Larian, he basically like owns it outright. Like no one else has enough stake to tell him to do anything. Like he can just do whatever. And so, okay. Lots of driving back and forth. And so their model right now looks a lot more like a medieval model of art, where there's a really rich person who pays for art to be made, and it's just because they like it, and maybe they can get something from it. Maybe they can make some money from it, but really they're more interested in the fact of, like, can they make it? But I think money has poisoned, like you were saying, money has poisoned the well a little bit, and we're in a point where you know, everybody's kind of looking to cash in. And I used to say, and I still do, that indie games are the hope. But I also get worried whenever I'm on YouTube and I see all these indie game dev YouTubers, and the way that they're clickbaiting their videos is how to become, like, how to make money with your with your indie games, and how to make it like an indie game that makes you $1 million or whatever. And then why are they turning it over to, is it Wizards of the Coast? Yeah, they don't own the IP, so that's the thing. Larian doesn't own any of the IP, any of the characters that they made. That is all Wizards of the Coast. So what they did was they basically said, they went out and they talked to Wizards of the Coast and they said, hey, can we get the rights to make this video game? And they said, yep, you can pay this amount of money, and then you get this cut of all of the profits off of it, because, you know, we get some of it too because it's our IP, but you basically get the permission to license this. And so so they're like, cool, let's make it. And they made the game. Oh crap. Okay, stupid. There's some really good stealth mechanics here. So they got permission to make it. They made it, and then they could keep putting money into this, because I'm sure Wizards of the Coast would love to have them make, you know, 7 more of these, because they're gonna sell so well. They're gonna sell so much merch from this. This is like a new cash cow for them. And yeah, they're just not going to do that. They're just turning it back over, because either that or they're stuck forever under the foot of Wizards of the Coast. So that's the whole interesting part of this. Like, they don't have any... So all the money that they use to make the game is all their own. Like, Wizards of the Coast didn't invest in them, which is really interesting. I don't think most people understand that. So when you hear all these people who talk about they'll talk about, like, oh, they had so much money. Like, they had money because they, like, reinvested it in their studio, and Sven is just rich, and so he can do that. But that's not, like, you know, not universal. Yeah, that's the sad part about all this, is that the IP mismanagement piece is the idea that, like, oh yeah, now everybody's favorite characters are now going to be the property of this company that has a habit of not giving a crap about anything. And so, you know, you're gonna see a lot of these characters come back from Baldur's Gate, and I'm sure it's just going to be I don't know. I'm sure that we're gonna find something that's not going to be very happy on the other end of this. You're gonna see, like, Astarion, an Astarion game, because why not? Let's just make a whole video game about him. And I really don't envy whoever is going to be tasked with trying to make a sequel to this, because, you know, some studio is going to. And we'll see. I'm really curious because some people have been talking about maybe BioWare would come back for this. And BioWare has been given a lot of chances lately, but I don't know. Yeah. I I think it's a really unpopular opinion that um public domain would fix art, but I don't think it would hurt. I think actually trying to wait, is there a teleporter? Did I just miss it? Oh no, you do you actually have to walk back? That's crazy. Um yeah. I think there's a lot of like people just holding on to IP for money, and it doesn't really benefit. It doesn't do what people used to say it would do. Like it's gonna help the estate of this artist, this struggling artist, and we can help feed their family and do all this stuff. And you know, I don't know how helpful that is. Like I don't think personally if I made a lot of money, I don't think I would want to have my kids living off of the success of this franchise or whatever I start, you know. Like all the all the YouTube revenue, all the I don't make any money off of YouTube, but like if I did, I wouldn't want my kids living off of that. I'd want that to go to something that would actually helping. I'd want, you know, my kids to actually feel like they're contributing to society and not just living off their parents' money. Um, yeah, I think life of the creator I think is probably fine, and that might be a little bit much, but like I don't know. I think as long as Tolkien is alive, it's Tolkien's thing, and then once he's dead, you know, everything else is fine. Um, I don't know how much more use that is. I don't like the idea of like corporation-owned stories. That seems really weird and messed up to me. Like I feel like this should be made to protect, you know, people, not to protect the Marvel universe. I think as long as Stan Lee is alive, you know, it's okay, cool. Spider-Man is his thing, and he can share it if he wants to, and he can say no if he wants to. But you know, of course, there's there's a lot of problems when you put potentially a lot of money on someone's life. That's another thing, but hopefully we live in a place where people will not kill for you know, a specific IP to be released into the public domain. That is my hope. Is there another? I guess the next quest is over here. Yeah, that's why I would say that there is no there it doesn't really make sense to me to have a corporate creator. That seems really weird. And maybe I'm, you know, I don't know. But I'm like I don't think the Disney Corporation can say I made X. Even though they technically did. That is their thing, but you know. I think this is a new thing for me. Like, I think I used to be like, oh yeah, whatever, corporation rights or whatever. It doesn't matter. And now as I get older, I'm like, no. It's kind of weird. That feels like it should be the right way to go, but it's definitely not. Of course, you could always choose. You could say 25 years or the life of the creator. And say corporations don't qualify. I don't think corporations should qualify for that. I think that's a thing. But I could also see something like, you know, somebody copying a movie. The director, the producer. There tends to be an idea person. There tends to be the person who comes up with the idea, and then they sell the idea to somebody. Like, that usually seems to be the way it goes. Like, there's a screenwriter, or there's a director. There's somebody you can usually come back to and say, yeah, that's the person. Like, if I was to say, like, Hamilton, I'm like, Lin-Manuel Miranda, Star Wars, George Lucas. I think it's a little harder some other places, but like, you know, Cormac McCarthy, I can say is like the person behind even the Coen Brothers movie. He was the secret screenwriter behind the whole thing too, for um, No Country for Old Men. So yeah, it's kind of where I'd lean. Do I have to get a fire gun? Do I even have a fire gun? Ooh. I don't like Flint's tinderbox. There we go. I think that's fair too. Like, there's no. I think Nintendo is probably like the company that gets me most worried about archive stuff, just because of how much they've like been litigious with all this kind of stuff. Oh, I really need to switch out weapons. This is not a nice weapon. Oh, but I don't really have anything that great. Okay. I think I'm most frustrated with this whole thing with, oh my gosh, get me out of here. Like, Nintendo just sits on, like, properties and does not do anything with them. And they just kind of sit on them, and then they get, like, really litigious with minor uses of these copyrights they don't really care about, but it's their property, so why not? And they don't make any money off of any of it. They could just, like, you know, they could license stuff, and they could do stuff, but they just don't want to. But this is also like, I don't know. This is another interesting kind of thing with. I want to say, and I like to explore this more too. The way it seems that Japanese culture, like how it understands modding, for example. Like, Japanese creators seem to hate the idea of anyone modding their video game. Like, I feel like it horrifies people. The idea that, like, oh, you're going to, like, change a game mechanic in this game I made. Like, that's not okay. And I don't know. Once you release it into the world, people can do with it whatever they want. It's their thing, right? They might not be appreciating your art the way that you want them to, but you know, I can't control how people you know use my videos. They can use my videos however they want. I'm not gonna, you know, get up in arms about it. But it does not seem to be that way with video games. It seems to be that you'll see a lot of people get mad about that. And yeah, you were right about the melee scene. That's been like the biggest thing. Just because it doesn't do anything but like really support what Nintendo already is doing. It was even worse with like some of even the recent games. Like they're just shutting down tournaments. Like they're not hosting tournaments to replace anything. They're shutting stuff down. And then they talked about licensing fees and people buying up licenses to run tournaments. And it's nonsense. It's like, gosh, I don't know. I think they're I've seen some games have terms of service where they basically are prepared to like shut anybody down for any reason. I have to drink. I can't imagine this is very sanitary. Yeah, I think Melee just there's no other way to play the game. Like online, it doesn't work. And so if you want to have any type of tournament, you have to use it modded. And they're just not happy with that. And I don't know, I guess it cuts into whatever, game they currently have out. But are we just doing this? There we go. Oh. Oh gosh, come on. Oh no. Oh no. There we go. Okay. Cool, cool. Yeah, for the most part, like the enforcement of IP, I don't understand any in these cases of tournaments and stuff. Any like real benefit that it provides um to the creators and to the IP owners. Like it makes people really mad at you, right? For no reason. Um you can avoid it entirely. It doesn't encroach on your IP. Like it's not like you can't enforce it as strictly, right? Like you can enforce it. It's TOS stuff. Like it's stuff that people have to agree to just to use your software. Um, duration of fight for your life is better. Or do I want a gun? I like guns. Okay. And yeah, it feels like it gets in the way of everything. And it's just so easily avoidable. Like we don't even have to be in this situation. Especially not with old games. Like there's I don't know. And I don't know how IP law is going to work with video games too. I'm curious. Because of preservation for one. Like if no games are being preserved, then even if they go into public domain, like what does that even mean? Source code isn't kind of preserved anywhere from my understanding. Like it's very rare that you ever run into source code for anything. And I'm not sure quite why. People say it's like dangerous the way that they talk about it, but unless it's an online game, source code is not the worst thing in the world. So Too many Flash games have died. Are there any even alive anymore? That's the real question. I think Flash has totally been wiped out. And there's no, like, I don't know. It's not like everything has to be kept forever, right? I understand that. Like, you're gonna lose stuff. But why lose stuff unnecessarily when you have the option to save it? Yeah, they just keep coming out. They just keep going. But level 19. I think the guys over there in that section before were like level 20. So we're getting closer. You might see if we can get a quest in or something. Stalking the stalkers. That sounds good. I think I like this quest. Did I ever play stuff on Congregate? I did play some stuff on Congregate. I was kind of late to it. So I did some of that. I did a lot of cool math games. Cool Math Games had a second site. Coolified Games that I had messed around with a little bit. And I really enjoyed that that site. That was really cool. What does this actually do? This gun. Crit damage. Interesting. Okay. But there's just like certain, I don't know, there's certain genres I've stuck to for a good bit. Like I really enjoyed the idle games on Congregate. But I've just kind of been an idle game fan. Yeah. There's this one game I remember playing a bit, and it was about like oh gosh, my inventory's full. You play like a guy who trains ducks to like compete in games, like Olympic games almost. And there's something about it's like almost roguelike, but not quite. You just kind of play the same thing over and over again, and you're upgrading. There's one where like you're a guy and you can only play for like 60 seconds, not 60 seconds, like 4 seconds, and you go through and try to collect as many things as you can. And then on your second playthrough, you can like extend the time you can play. There's just like all these indie games, Flash games, really got to explore with like game mechanics without having to be super committed. That's something I really enjoyed. But again, I never went too far into it. I was more of the kid who played Nintendo games in my free time. Like I had a Wii U, for example. It was only then when I finally switched over to like got some computer games. Yeah, I think it's a huge loss. Because you don't really see too many places to experiment with mechanics. And the closest we can get now is, in my estimation, like some of these smaller indie game sites. But we're kind of reaching a level where embedded games are really hard to experiment fully with. Like you can do some stuff with it, but also just game dev has grown so much. Yeah, I'm floating back and forth on that one. Like to get it into people's hands is the huge issue, right? Even to put something on Steam for free costs $100, right? To buy the permission to do that. And then what if you want to make like a really crappy game? For the most part, if I'm gonna be spending money to put it on Steam, I want to at least like charge people for it so that I can get some of my costs back for putting it up there. But then you put up like a $1 crappy game on Steam. I don't know. It's kind of tough. It's the glory days of being able to kind of train as a developer. And I think the closest we have is maybe we have modding now. So at least you can experiment with tools depending on what game you're modding for. But like if you're modding for a Bethesda game, you can experiment with tools that they're basically using. That's kind of cool. And you get like real game dev experience and you can mess around with mechanics. But yeah, beyond that, there's not really anything standalone that you can do too often. Oh, I didn't know about the $1,000 or the 1,000 copies. You can maybe get something back. I still feel like that's a lot though. I mean, 1,000 copies is not a small amount. That's a wait, which key is what? Okay, there we go. Oh, okay. Oh, I'd trust Thor with it. I think if he's saying that, then he would know what he's talking about. But yeah, 1,000 copies is still a lot. Like unless you're kind of really investing in your game, I can feel like there would be a lot of difficulty getting there. Like I don't know. I don't know. I'm thinking about it from like YouTube side, right? Like I have 600-ish subscribers, and I think might be wrong. Yeah, I think I do, and that's free, right? Nobody has to pay for that. That's just somebody doing that. But I don't know. Maybe it is just way different because it's a channel versus a video. That's kind of what it is with video games. It's a video game versus a publisher, right? The basement bar? Am I missing something? Basement bar. You might have to catch me up. I don't know if I'm familiar. I do need to sell my stuff though. From one of my other streams. Okay, wait, now I'm now now I'm lost. Okay, wait. Basement bar, basement bar. Oh no. Is this a thing I made up? Basement bar. Basement bar. Is this a Borderlands thing? Okay, wait, I'm really lost. No. Oh, okay, yes. Yes. Like Greenwich Village. Like yes, the experimenting. I think this is this might have been something out of what was being said by Alan, because Alan's a comedian, so he talks about the crafting of the work in the dark in like a basement bar. Yes, that is where it's at. Bullymong, gross. I don't want to do the Bullymong one. Okay. Chrysalis? But yeah, I think this is I think the concept of like the underground like art or whatever, the basement bar, the indie art scene. There's a lot of bad connections people have to that, but there's also a lot of good stuff that has come out of those kind of places. You know, you look at the beginning of MF Doom as an artist was I mean, as a person he was doing rap before then, but like as MF Doom, he was doing that in, you know, in bars and in, you know, like small kind of places to really develop that persona and that style. And so there's not a... So what is that for video games is the question. Like what can we do? Oh, is there are they fighting? Yes? No? Oh, okay. I thought I might be able to have the off chance I get a unkempt herald. Yeah, that's the thing where it's like the Flash games was that. It was the place to you could just send something and you could have a really low stakes experiment and you could get a bunch of eyes on it and it could go really well or it could go really bad, but it was like, again, super low stakes. Like there was nothing that you could lose from doing it, except maybe your pride, which I think, you know, those are good things to lose, but there isn't really that for games anymore. And maybe that's the goal of any kind of art, is finding out where those places are. Like where can you find people who have a similar interest to you? The problem is a lot of those places are like for creators. And, you know, when people who like something and make that thing all come together, and then they don't come in contact to anyone who actually, like, you know, consumes that thing and just enjoys it, you can kind of get into your own bubbles of things, and you get the whole syndrome of, like, you know, the worst parts of those kind of areas are the parts where, you know, people will say, like, oh, common people don't understand the art we're making. We're making real art, that kind of stuff. Which, again, usually is half true, but yeah. The malware thing is another thing. Like, I think, I was gonna say find people you trust, but at the same time, that's usually the problem. Oh. Did I? That's fun. But no, you really can't trust anybody with that. So what do? You, I don't know. I think YouTube has been it for a lot of people, for a lot of game dev channels, is that they just make YouTube videos and then people can watch their gameplay being made in real time. And that gives an excuse to get feedback. There's no commitment on the viewer other than to watch. And maybe that translates into something that actually gets made, and maybe that just is, you know, the way it is. And that's something, but... oh, gosh. And it's a little bit harder for these, like, higher commitment types of art, you know? Like, that's the thing with, like, music. Music very rarely is heavy commitment, right? You don't have to sit there for hours and hours. You can just, you know, listen to a few songs. Next person comes up, they do a few songs. It's pretty chill. But, you know, I'll have to check out that person. Afriel. I haven't heard of that person. Oh gosh. I think paintings are a little bit easier too, because, you know, you can just look at it, and, you know, the only fear is that somebody's going to, you know, steal your property. But if you're good enough at making art, you don't mind if somebody, the off chance someone just takes a painting of yours. It's not like it's the end of the world. It sucks, but it's like, whatever. Somebody steals an idea. Oh, there's like there are definitely categories of games that are just really hard to get into. I imagine you're talking about like making competitive multiplayer, but also just doing competitive multiplayer, finding a group to do that. There's just all these, I don't know. Finding ways to have community is really tough. I've I've had a really hard time getting into multiplayer. Partially because I don't know, I might not have the best personality traits. Probably should work on some of those things. Um, but the multiplayer stuff, I have a really tough time. I don't even know how to put it. Like, oh, I have to collect all this stuff. Like I tried at one point. I've done that for a few things, but I realized there's a point where you recognize how much you're gonna have to give up in order to be good at something, and it's always a price I'm not not willing to pay. And this is kind of the chess thing we had talked about, um, a few weeks back. That chess, there's all these people who like have put their entire lives into making chess, not making chess, but like getting good at chess, and they're miserable, but they're like the best at it. And maybe it's the difference between like, okay, you don't have to be the best at something, you just want to be good. But part of my intuition, and I think this is my personality trait, is like, if I want to do something, I want to at least try to be the best. I want to have a chance at doing that. Even if it's like a wildly unrealistic chance, at least I can like carve out something to like be good at. And I don't think that could ever be chess if I want to, have a life. Same thing with CS:GO and, all these other things. And then making it is a whole nother level, because like that's another competition that's just miserably stacked. Just there's so many people who are doing it, and you can make an amazing game, but like marketing is almost all of it sometimes. Yeah, and the top of the ladder being sustainable, it's very reminiscent of like everything I've heard about Fortnite. That's been part of it, about how Fortnite changes the meta too often. So they're always shifting the balance, and all these skills that people had been cultivating, they don't need anymore. And so, like, what's the point? And kind of like what you're saying is like, well, yeah, if it's all going to change anyway, like the best players are just going to change on the swing of the dime, then like, why am I trying to climb this ladder? And that too. Some people do though. Some people say like, hey, I want to strive to be the top because I want to be the best. And I don't care what I have to give up to be there, even if I'm miserable. But I think it's the same thing that Jordan Peterson talks about the guy who just, he doesn't care. He wants to like make other people miserable. It's similar to that. Oh gosh. It's not quite as bad, but it's still a really horrible thing to see. It does lower the skill ceiling, which for some people, that's what they're looking for. Other people, they want really high skill ceiling. And Nice. I haven't heard of Nice, but I just remember when my brother was playing, that was like a huge thing. Like that kept being an issue. And that's basically why he gave it up. He was like, I spent all this time learning how to do the like double shotgun thing, and like now they change all the stuff, and then you reach a point where I was like, well, what's the point of even continuing on if we're gonna keep doing this? But I think this all kind of has to do with my both personal and philosophical kind of reactions to nihilism. Like, I don't know. Why does it matter? Like, it's a good question, actually. Like, why do I take the time to train all these things if in the end, like, I'm gonna die? So will I care about this in the end? Who knows? Interesting. Yeah, I'll have to see that. Like, and that's why I can connect to single player games, because I feel like it's the same thing for a story. Like, I can understand the importance of a story. I have a hard time understanding the importance of competition, and that's, like, again, a personal problem. That's not really a thing with anything else. Oh gosh, sheesh. And maybe I'm trying to, I struggle to find, like, what is the redemption? Maybe it's a bad way of putting it, but what is the redemption of like online competitive video games? Like, what am I going to be able to take with me? Where I can understand like stories. I can understand, like, I have character, and I thoroughly believe character, your like personal character is going to have an influence. But I don't see that with some other stuff, like my rank. So competitive games can't be about getting rank, because that misses the point. And maybe it's something about cultivating the character to become the person who wants to get better at something. But I really want to be better for a reason, if that makes sense. That's why I think I like poetry, for example, where it's like the idea of being able to be the type of person to or to be able to make a poem that, like, influences someone's life and, like, makes their life better. Like, I want to be able to, I don't know, if I can help one person, like, be a better person, that's, like, the greatest thing that I could do, both for them, but then also for myself. And that doesn't have to be art, but often that is art. And so I could see, like, using competitive games as a way to reach out to people and to make connections with others. But I don't know. It does not seem to be how it is all the time. But maybe that's the mammonization that Luke always talks about. Gotta avoid mammon. It's a tricky fellow. And that brings us to what Ups was saying about metas, or metagames. Because I'd argue metagaming is the mammonization of games themselves. Of trying to optimize everything. But the optimization is the problem in the end. That we're always trying to optimize to a point that that defeats the purpose of the game, which is to have fun. To a certain extent, depending on the game. Some games are not made to have fun, but generally. Oh, we're just never gonna run out of bullets. I mean, you get training suit for a lot of things you don't see until you've learned them. It's PvP server after all. I think so too. I think it teaches you a lot about cooperation. And like anything else, like any skill teaches you how to do that for other things. Right? This has been a lesson that has taken me a long time to learn, which is the understanding that you know, everything you do has a connection to something else. Like if you begin to understand how to fish, that can help you in ways that you don't expect in completely different sectors of your life. And not necessarily in ways you expect. That's like the best side of the whole, you know, like everybody thinks that their field is the best way to understand what they do, or understand the world, right? Every fisherman is going to see fish everywhere, whereas a farmer is going to see the world as a farm, or a gardener is going to see the world as a garden. I had an economics professor who kept saying stuff like, if you just understood economics, you could predict everything about the world. Basically, you can predict elections. All it takes is an understanding of economics, economic principles. And stuff like that. Out of bubblegum. Yeah. Where are these guys? Exactly. Yeah. It can't be the end. It has to be a stepping stone to something else. And that's the constant kind of struggle back and forth in all of this. Is like, how do you recognize the real ends versus the pit stops along the way? And everybody thinks they found it, but that's the problem. Like, everyone always thinks they found it, so why do you expect to have found it? You gotta find someone to trust. True. I mean, this is the whole thing too with like, you know, I've talked to plenty of people where, here, I'm missing a quest. Wildlife preservation. No, I finished that. Okay, cool. Let's go back. But like, you hear something your entire life, and you hear it over and over again. Like, you know, Peterson says, "Tell the truth, or at least do not lie." And you hear that over and over in your entire life, and you're just like, Yeah, that makes sense. That's obvious. And then one day it just hits, and you just understand it, and you're like, oh, that's what that meant. Oh, I get it now. And like it wasn't until I had this experience until I finally got it. And maybe I don't fully get it yet, but I'm part of the way there. Like, this is a lot deeper than I realized it was. And then you try to explain that to someone else. I don't know if you've had this experience, but this has been like a relatively common experience for me. Where you try to explain it, and then the person's like, "Oh yeah, obviously, like that's obviously true." I'm like, "No, it's not obvious. Like this is, um, yeah, it's the meta game. Like that's where the meta is in meta modernism. It's like understanding the actual game that you're playing." And yeah, it's when you fully understand the stuff, that's when you finally, I don't know. It's the journey, right? And everybody this is another one of these things. Everybody says like, "Oh, it's the journey, it's about the journey, not the destination." And you don't really get it. You just kind of keep hearing it and you're like, "Oh, yeah, that makes sense. I kind of get it." And there's a point where you're like, "Oh, that's what that meant. It's this. It's like, oh, okay, the purpose wasn't for me to become, you know, global elite on Counter-Strike, or to get, 700,000 people watching me on YouTube. It was to, to do this stuff. It's to have these conversations, to make friends, to have a chance to talk to people and be kind to people." And yeah, I agree. Like, propositional terms are not good for this. That's why I find poetry to be especially useful. It's because it provides a way of articulating some of these things in a way that what in the world? Okay, I guess we can do these. I don't remember what these are. To be able to articulate ideas in a way that will actually bring about, how do I say this? Well, we'll develop a better understanding than if I tried to lay it out like a math problem or a logical argument. That's why stories are so important. It's because that's the actual way to send some level of experience to another person. Like, sharing experience through propositions has very limited use, whereas a story is a million times more helpful. I think I'm gonna have to call it though. I have a small group I have to meet with for church, but thank you all for hanging out, Ups and Afriel and whoever else is lurking in there. Thank you. Thanks to Bubbles and I'm trying to remember who else was in here. Arsenal and Neil and I forget who else. Grim also showed up. So thanks all for hanging out, and I hope you all have a amazing rest of your day. And talk to you all later. I'll probably make a... Here. We'll switch over here. I'll probably make something soon. And we'll see if I can stream more often. But yeah, it was really fun hanging out. And definitely want to reach out to you guys. Maybe we'll set up a conversation or something. So I'll do that. But expect more soon. And I'm just glad to be back. So have a good one, everyone.